Hey learners, right now we're going to get right into the three types of chords, or more specifically, the three main types of chords. So what does that mean? What are the three types of chords? What do I do with them? Hang on tight because we're going to move rather quickly through some of this stuff. So let's get right to it. Okay, so let's start with F major. That's F, A, and C. What if we flat this note? Can you guess what type of chord that is? If you said minor, that's right. So now this is F minor. Let's try a minor chord to start with. Let's try A minor. The notes here are A, C, and E. But what if we sharp this note? What type of chord do you think that is? If you said major, again, that's correct. So, which note determines whether a chord is minor or major? If you said this middle one, that's known as the third, then you're correct. So wait a minute. The second note in the chord is the third. Let's step back for a moment. The letter that names the chord is the first note. In other words, this is F major. So the first note in the chord is F. And we're not talking about inversions. That's a whole different concept. That is basically inverting the chord to some degree. In other words, moving the top note below, and then a second inversion would be also to move the next note below as well. But we're talking about first inversion. We're talking about spelling the chord in order. So in order, F is our one. F is our first note. So if we count up the scale again, that's 1, 2, 3. That's our third. And then the note on top is called the fifth. Can you guess why? That's right, because it's the fifth note counting from F. In the key of F major, that would be 2, 3, 4, 5. So now we have two types of chords, major and minor. And we talked about how the third determines whether a chord is major or minor. But this video is supposed to be about the three main types of chords. What's number 3? Well, so far the chords we've looked at only had 3 notes. The first, the third, and the fifth. And that's called a triad for 3. It's made up of 3 notes. If we continue that pattern, 1, 3, 5, what do you think is next in that order? 7. That's right. If the 7th on top is just a half step below the octave, then that's a major 7th. But if the 7th on top of a major chord is a whole step below the octave, then we have a dominant 7th. Okay, let's take a breath. That's been a lot of information. So if you're ready to move on, let's go. But if you need to go over some of this again, this is a great time to back up in the video and review before moving forward. We'll be right here when you get back. All right, so let's stack another third to each type of chord and see what happens. If we went 1, 3, 5 to make our minor or major triad, and then added another third to add 7, what do you think the type of chord with another third on top is called? it's a 9 or a ninth. So if the chord was a minor chord, minor 7, when we add another third on top, we get a 9. So this chord is a minor 9. And once again, without adding extra detail, we're just skipping every other note for these chords so far. So that's 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Let's play that minor 9 so we hear it. It still sounds minor, doesn't it? Because it's still built on that minor third at the bottom. Here's F major 7. Here's F major 9. And then here's G major, G7, G dominant 7. Now it's G9 or G dominant 9. So now we have those three types of chords. But why are we talking about this? To demonstrate why all of this matters, why we're even talking about three main types of chords. Moving over to the guitar, obviously. So we're going to try something with three chords. We're going to do D minor, G major, and C major. All three in the key of C major. But, like we did on the piano, let's change that each chord to a 7 chord to start. So D minor 7, from D minor to D minor 7, or G to G7, which is G dominant 7, and C from C major to C major 7. So now we have D minor 7, G7, and C major 7. So now let's take that D minor, and I'm going to change just using D minor 7, and D minor 9 to start. So you can hear how that sounds in the context of these three chords. So let's just start that. D minor 9. D minor 7. Now all three. So hopefully you noticed it didn't really sound all that different. It didn't sound like I'd played a completely different chord. Back to what we said before too, that's because we still have that minor third at the bottom. We still have this chord saying, I'm a minor chord. So let's do the same thing with the G7 really quickly. I'm going to change that G to a G7 and to a G13, all the way extended out like that. So we can hear how that sounds. I'll keep that D minor as a D minor 7 the whole time. So hopefully you could hear that. It still sounded like that same chord was being played because we haven't really changed the overall flavor of the harmony that's there. We'll do one more with C and then we'll mix it up very quickly a little bit, but hopefully you're starting to get how this is working. So now we're going to do D minor 7, G7, but then we'll do a C major 9, but we'll occasionally go back to the C major 7 and the C major. So hopefully you're starting to see that a D minor chord can be traded with any D minor chord. And a G7, a G dominant chord, can be traded with any other G dominant chord. Same is true for a C major 7, can be traded with any other C major chord. So that gives us all kinds of things we can do when we're playing behind someone, or writing a song, or we're improvising too, but we'll get to that in another video at some point. Just know this, the reason 3 types of chords is important is because once you know what those 3 are, if you see an E minor 7 in a song, you could play an E minor 9, you could play an E minor 6, you could play an E minor 11. If you see an F7 or an F dominant 7, in other words, in a chord in a song, then you could play F9, F dominant 9, F dominant 11, F dominant 13. It also gives you all kinds of fun and cool ways to kind of tie something together. Like using this example, we'll do something really quickly where I keep the same note on top, because a D minor 9, this voicing has an E on top. A G13, this voicing has an E on top. And a C major 7, this voicing has an E on top as well. So you hear this. You hear that E constantly through there, and it adds some continuity or some other things to playing that you wouldn't get without that. You've probably been thinking, but this is the video about 3 types of chords, and there are far more types of chords. What about diminished chords? Those are even talked about in videos about the major scale and chords based on that. What about augmented chords? What about all kinds of other chords? They're out there. Yes, but this is the 3 main types of chords, and we did that because most chords can fit into one of those 3 classifications, major, minor, or dominant. Overall, the idea was to give you opportunities to trade more colorful chords, or chords that have a different color to them. But I also am hoping that we get you on the path to thinking about more diverse substitutions for these chords, so you don't always have to use a chord with the same name. So hopefully you will take this opportunity to dig in. If you want to do some searches on minor, major, seconds, augmented chords, other substitutions, those kinds of things, great. I hope you find your way around to getting more color and more creativity in your music. So again, I hope this was helpful. And this is another reminder that we want you to know you can learn.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, click the like button and subscribe for more videos like this one. We want to help you know you can learn.